Hi everyone, I'm back with another video for Lawn Fawn. Today I'm using Stitch Hillside border dies, starry backdrops, costume party, trees before and afters. I'm showing you Happy Hunting, but I don't end up using it. I actually end up using the Build a House die set, and then I don't show, but I do use Harold's ABCs for the sentiment. And let's get into it. I started by stamping all of the images I thought I was going to use. I do use a solid 87% of these, but that little pumpkin by itself and the house I end up not using because life. When I put them on the card, they couldn't fit, and then after I colored the house, I thought, nope, I need the Build a House, so I ended up using that one instead. But I digress, we'll get to that later. I could honestly make a card with the images and elements I colored and prepared for this card that did not make the cut, which is kind of funny if you think about it. So I'm using Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, my go-to for coloring everything. I started by coloring the clouds. I usually do them in like a light blue, teal, or a gray. I'm not a realistic type colorer. I just color for things that make me happy, and rainbows make me happy, and that's what we're doing for the unicorn, of course. I couldn't color a unicorn without a rainbow. I added little pink blush to their cheeks. Oh look, I remembered to zoom in. How fun. Way to go, Sam. Pat on the back. As you can see, I spritz water onto my craft mat, and then I use my water brush to dip into the water to spread around the color. My water brush is actually empty. I just use it as a brush. I could use a real paintbrush, but I am now used to my empty water brush, and so I use that if I need to spread around the color. I make sure it's damp, not soaking wet, because I don't want to completely obliterate the colors. And then you have a paper towel on hand that I wipe off my paintbrush with so that it's clean for the next go. I had to have a little pumpkin guy, and which is why I wanted another pumpkin. My sentiment is pumpkin based. So I wanted a couple pumpkins, but I couldn't make it work. I should have probably made a long slimline tall card, but alas, that did not occur to me. So I ran out of space, and I had to make do with what I thought was my options at the time. Okay, so now I'm coloring these leaves of these cute trees. I decided to go with a whole bunch of different fall colors. Reds, oranges, yellows, a little bit of teal, because who doesn't love a teal leaf? Totally found in nature. I know. Crazy. And that is my coloring. I cut out coloring the house because, as mentioned, I don't end up using it. Next up, I'm using the Stitched Hillside Borders dies to cut out some hills with from white cardstock. I'm trying to decide which hills look best together, and so I'm kind of setting them next to each other and seeing if they will look good together, and then die cutting them out, and then I'm going to move on to some ink blending, because this card has a bunch of ink blending. I used mostly Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn Distress inks. As you can see, I'm like, oh, let me be a real crafter, and I'll use this scrap piece of paper to hold it so I don't get fingerprints in my ink blending. I don't know why I keep thinking I need to do that on videos, because that does not work for me. I don't do it when I'm not making a video and I'm ink blending. I don't know why I think I should be doing it, but that quickly got kiboshed. And after I added the Mowed Lawn, I thought it needed a little bit of more contrast, so I brought in Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink and added that to the edges at the bottom and the top of the hills as well, and I really like how that looked. And those are my hills. I also end up only using 2 of the hills, but I don't know that at this point, so so let's just forget about that. Then I decided to add some splatters because if you know me, that's what I do. I can't leave an ink blended background without splatters. It's difficult for me. So I smushed the ink pads against the craft mat, spritzed some water, and then used a paintbrush to pick up the color and splatter it on the background. Then I'm moving on to the ink blended background sky. I'm using Seedless Preserves, picked raspberry, and dried marigold. And unfortunately, the dried marigold mostly gets covered up, but I really love this color combination. I use it all the time for skies. Well, to be fair, I use blues all the time for skies, but when I'm trying to mix it up and make something really eye-catching, I go with this color combination. And I usually start with my darkest color, then I move on to the mid color, and then the lightest color of ink blending, and then I just go back and forth, I don't know, 3 to 7 times, depending on the intensity and blend that I am looking for. And here is the Build-A-House die set all cut out. I am using Distress Oxide inks to add color. I use mustard seed and a little tiny bit of vintage photo for the background of the windows, and then vintage photo for the wood trim of the house. And when I do the door, I use a tiny piece of scrap to separate the actual opening door part from the wood trim of the door, which I think came out pretty cute. I did mess it up a little bit when I added color to the door, but that's okay. It shows it's homemade, right? Black soot for the awnings and the door, as I mentioned. And then I could not decide what color house to make them, what color to make the most of the house. What color do you think I should have done it? I was thinking of leaving it all white, but and then I was like, ooh, maybe I'll do a little bit of gray. In the end, I went blue. I don't know if I like it or not. I don't know if it should be, it should have been a darker blue. I don't know. The house, I couldn't decide. You tell me. Leave a comment below and let me know what color I should have done the house. All right, now I am moving on to trying to figure out my setup. You would think, because I had sketched out the card to begin with, the card idea, that this would have been an easy setup. But it was not. Here, I was like, what can I do with the pumpkin? Can the girl hold the pumpkin? That looks cute. Can I make that work? I don't know. Should I set the pumpkin down next to the boy dressed as a pumpkin? Where do the clouds go? Nothing is glued down, so everything is moving all over as I'm trying to get an idea. I thought about cutting this part out, but this was real life. So I couldn't. So I ended up deciding not to use the other pumpkin, not to use the other hillside. I tucked one of the trees behind the hills. So all those leaves I colored, they get hidden, but it's okay. They're not mad at me. And then I added some foam tape to the little kids, and I'm starting to glue everything down. I use the Lawn Fawn glue pen for a lot of it, and I love that glue. It's the best glue. I tuck a cloud behind the trees, a cloud behind the house, a bunch of clouds. What's a sky without clouds, right? And then everything finds its home in the card. What do you think? Should I have left the pumpkin, the little girl holding the pumpkin? I'm kind of thinking I should have, but, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Another card. It'll have to be another card. Oh, did I mention I splattered water on the background of my sky? I did. I didn't put it on camera because it was kind of boring and I wasn't going to make you guys watch paint dry or water dry in this case. So, it was just the exact same process of how I splattered color onto the hills, except for I didn't use ink, I just used plain water. And now we're on to the sentiment, my favorite part, the inspiration and star of the card, if you ask me. I love this sentiment. Let's give them pumpkin to talk about. I am a sucker for puns. I love them, and I love, punny things about song titles, so. There's my card, the glitter, the Halloween, the custom phrase. I love it. Be sure to check this card out on the Lawn Fawn blog, and let me know if you like it. Thanks again for watching. Bye.